28 Years Later has been my most anticipated film of 2025, and I have very mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it is surprising me in every single way with every creative swing that it takes and its ambition in trying to change its perception of this franchise. But on the other hand, it gave us this fantastic trailer and it does not live up to it. And by the end of this review, I'm going to tell you why. So from the beginning of the film, this movie feels like a horrifying fever dream of someone trying to recollect the moments in their life and retell it. The way Danny Boyle directs this film, it feels so claustrophobic. Just so many jump cuts, so many close-ups. Even when characters are in open fields, it feels like they're in a tight space. It's frantic, it's chaotic, and the editing is definitely not for everyone. Mix that in with the incredible sound design that makes every crunch of zombie bones or biting of flesh sound absolutely gross, and the really weird soundtrack that fits, but just some interesting choices. I could definitely overload the senses, but I'm the type of person that like maximalist filmmaking. My favorite film is Everything Everywhere All at Once, so this type of stylized kind of filmmaking was right down my alley. But sometimes films like this that feels like it has a lot of stylistic editing and the way it's shot can feel like all style and no substance. But surprisingly, out of all the 328 years, weeks, and days later films that Danny Boyle has done so far, this one has the most heart. It has a central family drama and a coming of age story that I think is easy to engage in and connect to, and is needed because there's so many weirder elements and structure of the plot that you need to have that central thing holding everything down, and it's backed by and enhanced by outstanding performances from the three main cast members. Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing the worst dad and the worst husband of the year in the same movie, and he does a great job of giving this character so much nuance. You understand that he loves his family and he's doing what he thinks is right for them and a little bit what's right for him, but he's going about it kind of the wrong way. He's trying to teach his son, who's 12 years old, how to survive out on the mainland. Because in this movie, they have their own little community away from the mainland where most of the rage virus is like raging, right? And they're finally going out there. He's trying to teach them those survival skills that you need to have in this new world that they're getting used to. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays this character with charisma, but with subtlety at the same time, and showcases the flawedness in that the character has. And his son, played by this newcomer named Alfie, he plays his son named Spike, and he's the center of the story. He's basically the main character, and this has to be one of the best child performances I've seen in a genre film in a very long time. The role and the performance, it asks for this kid to do a lot and carry a lot, and he does it in such a naturalistic way. He doesn't feel like he's acting. He feels like a kid, but he's displaying so many complicated emotions in silence that some adult actors cannot do to this day. In this coming of age story, he lives in this small town, and everything is cool and everything is fine because he's never left it. But as he leaves it, everything that he knows, his innocence, his lifestyle, everything he thought about his parents, starts slowly melting away. It's a coming of age story where someone that's very young, that should be able to enjoy a childhood, has to age up and become an adult way before they're supposed to. And while I feel like that's a classic tale that can carry any movie, especially with performances like this that gets you invested in the characters, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle decided to do some booger sugar, that rock, that yayo, that nose candy while they were making this movie. And for the uninitiated that's watching this video, I mean cocaine. That cocaina, as my Latino brothers say. I could just imagine what the writer's room looked when they were making this movie. Hey, Alex. Hey, Danny, what's going on? What's that on your nose? What, this? Don't worry about this. Did you write the script for 28 Years Later? I got Sony to agree to it. Oh, that's great. I was just actually writing the scene where they are attacking the dare and the onlookers see it in horror. Yeah, I know about that scene. Yeah. You're not on the way, same wave of. Here, bump this real quick. Yeah, so what we're going to do, the onlookers are not going to be there at all. It's going to be all red. They're going to be tearing up the dare, and we're going to be showing the onlookers traveling while the zombies are ripping this dare up. Get it? Oh, no. So how does that scene tie into the rest of the movie? Actually, it doesn't really matter. I'm starting to feel real good. Pitch it to me. There's really no point. It just looks really cool. And the audience is going to be wowed and creeped out. Right? Sounds amazing. This is going to be a masterpiece. There's some creative swings in this movie that's going to throw off many and make them go, what the hell is going on? And there's some creative swings in here that's going to make people who like wild movies that try to do both things and make them enjoy it. Random scenes that just flash on the screen and you're not fully aware what the full context is. Scenes that are very interesting but has nothing to do and it's nothing tied into what's going on in the main story, and something that's off screen that the main characters that are out and about have no way of knowing that is happening, and you're trying to figure out why it's filmed or framed the way it is. And the movie does a lot of setting up because this is a confirmed trilogy of things that's going to probably be playing out in further films, but it absolutely feels bonkers in this first movie. It goes from this intense story about this little kid who idolizes his father, but all that idolization starts to crumble when he realizes what his father really is. And then it goes into this little kid trying to go on his own and solve his own issues, and all that is done really seriously, and then the tone shifts into this comedic British thing, and you're laughing and you're trying to settle in to what's going on, and once you finally settle in, it gets to these gory zombie moments and some brutal stuff starts going on, so you're like, okay, I'm strapped in, I'm tense, and then it goes comedic again, and then it goes into a scene that's one of the most heartbreaking and emotional scenes I've seen all year. It takes you on a complete emotional roller coaster, and I was not prepared for it. The movie's tones kind of feel like they're fighting with each other sometimes, because on one hand, it does feel like how it feels to play The Last of Us, that video game where that tone, trying to survive those situations and the emotionality that's connected to that. But then sometimes it feels like it's something else and it feels like they're jarring with each other and you're trying to settle in into what's going on. But I gotta say, Ray Fiennes, he's in the trailer and he's in this movie, and I think he plays one of the most interesting post-apocalyptic characters that I've seen in a long, long time. His performance is captivating. Everything that they do in his section of the film is poignant, and it really talks about death and the different kinds of deaths and which one do you want your loved ones to have. And he says something and does something in that section of the film that moved me, and I was not expecting to be moved in this movie. It's moved to tears, and like I said, if you can make me cry, you get bumped up points, because it was one of the most beautiful things that I've seen in a very horrifying situation. And you must be saying to yourself, right, Zach, you're talking about all these performances and the weirdness and all that, but what about the zombies? We came here for the zombies. Where they at? Well, they are in here, and they are brutal, and they do some really unique things with them, but they're sprinkled throughout. This is more about the drama about these people surviving this new situation, less about the zombies. But when they do show up, it's chaotic, it's bloody, and it's very gory. They do a lot of lore building with this film. Things that were in the first two movies, they build on that and add even more different types of zombies, why those zombies exist, some things that happen with the zombies that you didn't expect that could, or the infected or the rageful, whichever you want to call it in this series, that you're like, whoa, and they explain it and it makes things interesting. You get like, I want to see more of that, and they sprinkle it in throughout and keep you hooked in, like what is going on with these affected and why are they acting like this. And it makes it even more interesting when you really realize that these people are quarantined on this island. They're stuck here because the rest of the world is living normally like me and you would, but they don't want this rage virus to spread everywhere. So they're just stuck here and they can't leave, and they have to deal with this new reality. Most zombie films is about bringing back reality to the way it was before the virus happened. This one is about settling in and living in this new reality and making the best of it. So I was not expecting this film to take such creative risk and swings with the zombie lore and how they structured the film and how they shot certain scenes, which was really discombobulating sometimes, because the way Danny Boyle directs, it cuts a lot and there's a lot of, it's not shaky cam, but it's just a lot of cutting, and the way he positions his camera can be disorienting. But I was excited and happy that they didn't just rehash what they did before. There's homages to some things that happened in the first two movies, but it's never trying to just recreate it. It's done in its own way, and I really appreciated that. So where the film let me down is that it has that itis where like the movie feels like the film that's setting up everything else, right? Like the main story arc is interesting, and I think it has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's filled full and complete, but there's so many things going around it while we're going on that arc that we don't like dive into. That's so interesting. So you could tell that they're setting all these things up so that the second and third film can play with them, and it can kind of feel disappointing. I really feel like that divisiveness and the dissatisfaction that people who probably doesn't like this movie or feel worse than I actually do because I still like it is because the way it ends. I feel like it was ramping up to like a really cool finale, but it kind of just finishes, and then it finishes in the weirdest way possible. Another tonal shift that I did not see coming. You could have went on a trade market and bet how this movie was going to end, and you would have never guessed how this movie was going to end. It felt like we were getting a movie written by Alex Garland, and then the last 10 minutes was written by Simon Pegg. It just came out of nowhere. It's supposed to set up the next film and let you know like what that film is going to feel like. But when you're in the first film, it feels like it's super out of place. And I feel like if the third act had something that was more climactic, something that was a little bit more epic, and then they did the weird stuff, I feel like it would have been easier to digest. But because the third act kind of just ends, even though it was kind of a beautiful note, it just didn't feel like the movie was supposed to be ending yet. It would have been really a lot easier for all that weirdness to be okay. Overall, I didn't love 28 Years Later like I wanted to or I thought I would. It's not what I expected. It's not at all. It's not what was advertised at all. But I did have a great time watching the film. The film is gorgeous with its cinematography. On a technical level, it's very different from anything else out right now. This is kind of an art house zombie film, but made by a major studio with some really top tier actors doing really great jobs. I didn't even talk about Jodie Comer, who gives a fantastic performance as Spike's mom, the little kid that's the main character in this film, and she does an amazing job throughout the movie. So it's worth checking out in theaters because of how gorgeous it is and how fun, and like I laughed throughout the movie. I felt tense and scared. I was taken on an emotional roller coaster ride, but I felt disappointed because a lot of the aspects of the film that could have went a little deeper or could have been a little bit more epic didn't go there. It felt smaller than it actually should have. So while I'm not over the moon with this film, I still had a good time. And what the movie did was get me interested in 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, which is the next film being filmed by Nia DaCosta, which I think is already done. Film is coming out in January of next year. And that's what a sequel or a first film is supposed to do, is get you interested in the next one. It did its job, even though I feel like it could have did more. So with that said, I'm going to give 28 Years Later a C+. Question of the day is, what zombie film do you think had the most impact on the genre overall? Drop your answers down below and let me know, and you can watch more content right now.